Dear colleagues, thank you for waiting just a little bit in order to get all the documentation ready. And I would now invite the coordinator for the omnibus resolution, Ms. Beatrice Maillet of Canada, to introduce the draft omnibus resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. And I really want to thank all colleagues for their patience this morning. I'm honored to present a draft resolution called Strengthening the International Criminal Court and the Assembly of State Parties, also known as the Omnibus Resolution, contained in document ICC-ASP24/L.9 Corrigendum 2. This document includes my facilitator's compromise proposal that were circulated yesterday, and I sincerely hope it can bridge all the differences to reflect our shared conviction that the International Criminal Court remains a cornerstone of the global fight against impunity. I hope it can be our commitment as state parties to a rule-based international order in which the most serious crimes of concern to the international community must not go unpunished. I hope it can also be the recognition that the court is an essential means of ending impunity for such crime and preventing their recurrence, of promoting respect for international humanitarian law and human rights, thus contributing to freedom, justice, security, and the rule of law. Tout comme a dit un de mes anciens ministres des Affaires étrangères à New York, qui a eu le privilège de voir notre planète du ciel lorsqu'il était comme astronaute dans les étoiles, nous avons à ce jour une seule planète. Donc, il nous devient à nous le devoir de trouver le moyen de s'entendre pour vivre ensemble. Nevertheless, there is a primary responsibility, as many knows, of national jurisdiction to investigate and prosecute crimes that concern the international community. This also means enhanced cooperation between states and the need to fight towards a common objectives, the need to achieve universality of the Rome Statute. Finally, it cannot go without mention the need to have continued strengthening of the court institutional capacity so that it may carry out its mandate with greater efficiency, inclusivity, and resilience. We recall that the legitimacy and effectiveness of the court depends not only on its legal authority, but also on our common political will, our cooperation, our capacity to engage in meaningful dialogue, and our shared commitment to justice. Madam President, I would like to thank you very much for your support in the last few weeks and months in this endeavor. I'd like to thank the Bureau for entrusting me with this role. I would like to thank once again the multiple facilitators on this side of the ocean or on the other side of the pond who contributed to this omnibus text. I'd like to thank the Secretariat for their support, the conference staff, and the interpreters who have been essential to making this a meaningful dialogue. All states, in their different little ways, who have helped us to achieve this consensus, and particularly our Vice President in New York from Sierra Leone, Japan, Netherlands, Finland, and so many others. I want to thank all states and call on everyone's flexibility. So today, I submit to you this draft resolution for our consideration and hope that, as it will be my last year as coordinator of this omnibus text, that I can call upon all of you to adopt this by consensus. We can do this. Let's just do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coordinator, for introducing this draft resolution. That brings us to the point that we should take action on the draft resolution entitled Strengthening the International Criminal Court and the Assembly of States Parties, so-called Omnibus Resolution, contained in document ICC ASP24/L9, and it has been distributed with the cover note saying that it's correction 2. Is there any delegation that wishes to explain its position before we take action on the draft resolution? I see none. May I take it that it is the wish of the Assembly to adopt by consensus the omnibus resolution contained in document ICC-ASP/24/L9, and as I said, distributed with a cover note precising it as correction 2. I see no objection. The draft resolution contained in document ICC-ASP/24/9 as precised as correction 2 is adopted. Is there any delegation that wishes to explain its position after the adoption of the resolution? I see State of Palestine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And allow me to begin by thanking you and your team for your courageous and principled leadership in defense of the court and for your tireless efforts to strengthen the unity of states parties. And also allow me to extend our gratitude to our dear colleague and friend Beatrice for your coordination and facilitation throughout the negotiations and for your vigilance up until the last minute. And we wish you all the best in your next endeavor. The one single message that we sent this week and throughout this resolution is unity. Unity behind the court, its independence, impartiality and integrity, unity in defense of the personnel of the court, of the prosecutors and the judges, and unity for the victims and for the civil society. The states parties are united in condemnation of any threats, attacks, incitements or interference, including sanctions or measures of similar effect, against the court, its personnel, or those cooperating with it, including civil society and United Nations independent experts. States parties also called for the lifting of sanctions and for measures to be taken without delay in support of the court, its personnel, and those cooperating with it. The State of Palestine is proud of the role it played alongside delegations in cementing our support for the court and the objective and purpose of the Rome Statute. States parties rose up to the challenge, and they are committed not just to the resilience of the court, but to the victims under its jurisdiction. The conversations and engagements among states parties and with the leadership of the court on measures needed to ensure the functioning of the court was central to our discussions. And we affirm it must continue, including through institutionalization of such measures within the court's mechanisms. This would help consolidate a comprehensive, collective, and effective mitigation measures. In this regard, the State of Palestine is grateful for the host country, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, for its central role in protecting the court and for all the exemplary measures and policies it is devising and encouraging further cooperation with the host country to secure the best results. Finally, Madam President, the establishment of the court 50 years late after the horrors of World War II constituted a watershed moment in the fight against impunity for the most serious crimes. Its importance lies primarily in the intention to convey to victims everywhere that these crimes shall not be tolerated, and to perpetrators anywhere that they shall be held accountable. We must act with the victims in mind, all victims, the victims we might not be able to spare but have a duty to deliver justice to, those we might be able to save, and those whose only hope and last resort is this court, our court. Thank you.
I thank you for a statement. And I don't see any other requests for the floor. That moves us to the report of the Assembly of States Parties. The Assembly will now consider the draft report of the 24th session. Before proceeding to adopt the report, I invite Ms. Sakura Ozaki of Japan, the rapporteur, to introduce the draft report of the 24th session contained in document ICC-ASP/24/L1. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I have the honor to present the draft report of the Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, which held its 24th session at the World Forum in The Hague from 1st to 6th December 2025. The report is contained in document ICC-ASP/24/L1. All necessary references to the resolutions adopted by this Assembly will be reflected in the report as appropriate. The official documents of the 24th session of the Assembly will be published in 2 volumes. Volume 1 will contain the Assembly's report, consisting of 3 parts. The first part includes the work of the session and is divided into 2 chapters. Chapter A, titled Introduction, covering paragraphs 1 to 13, provides factual information on the invitation to participate in the 24th session, the opening of the session, the composition of the Credentials Committee, the adoption of the agenda, and the organization of work. Chapter B, titled Consideration of the Items on the Agenda of the 24th Session of the Assembly, deals with the work conducted during the session. It provides factual information on the Assembly's activities in relation to each item on the session's agenda. It refers to various outcomes regarding the activities conducted, the resolutions and decisions adopted, the recommendations made, and the agreements reached by the Assembly. Chapter B is divided into 15 sections. Paragraphs 14 to 17 of Section 1 refer to states in arrears and refers to the Assembly resolution on the procedure and criteria for the waiver of the loss of voting rights. Paragraphs 18 to 19 of Section 2 of the draft report address the Credentials Committee of the States Parties at the 24th session. In Section 3, paragraphs 20 to 24 refer to the general debate that took place during the 24th session and to the declaration of the Assembly of States Parties, which the Assembly adopted. In Section 4, paragraphs 25 to 26 refer to the report on the activities of the Bureau, of which the Assembly took note. Paragraph 27 of Section 5 refers to the report on the activities of the Court, of which the Assembly also took note. Paragraph 28, Section 6, refers to the report of the Board of Directors of the Trust Fund for Victims of the ICC and the statement by its chair, both of which the Assembly took note. In Section 7, paragraphs 29 to 36 refer to the election of 6 members of the Committee on Budget and Finance and of 1 member to fill a casual vacancy on the committee. The section also refers to the decision of the Assembly to fill a vacancy pursuant to ICC-ASP/22/Resolution 8 at the 25th session. In Section 8, paragraphs 37 to 41 refer to the consideration and adoption of the budget for the 24th financial year. The Assembly approved the report of the working group as reflected in document ICC-ASP/24/WGPB/CRP/1. It also approved the 2026 program budget. Additionally, the Assembly adopted the resolution on the program budget, which covers a number of topics, including program budget for 2026, including appropriations totaling 196,852.9 thousand euros, and staffing tables for each of the major programs. This amount is reduced by the installments for the host state loan and scale of assessment for the apportionment of expenses of the court. Paragraph 42 in section 9 addresses the consideration of the audit reports. Section 10, paragraph 43 concerns the amendments to the Rome Statute and the rules of procedure and evidence of the ICC. In section 11, paragraphs 44 and 45, the Assembly considered the issue of cooperation with the court in a plenary session entitled, "What forms of support from states parties are required for the court to address effectively the challenges it is currently facing?" Paragraph 45 indicates that the Assembly adopted the resolution on cooperation. In section 12, paragraph 46, the Assembly considered the issue of non-cooperation with the court in a plenary session titled "Prevention of Non-Compliance with States Parties' Obligation to Cooperate," with specific reference to consultations under Article 97 of the statute and the Assembly procedures on non-cooperation. In section 13, paragraph 47, the Assembly considered the decision concerning the dates and venues of the next sessions of the Assembly of States Bodies. Paragraph 48 in section 14 reports on decisions regarding the dates and location of the upcoming sessions of the Committee on Budget and Finance. Section 15 addresses other matters, and paragraph 49 refers to the election of a member of the Board of Directors of the Trust Fund for Victims to fill a vacancy which arose upon the resignation of the member of the Asia Pacific Group. Paragraph 50 refers to the adoption of the resolution on decisions to implement Recommendation 108 of the Group of Independent Experts. Paragraph 51 refers to the Trust Fund for the participation of the least developed countries and other developing states in the work of the Assembly. The second part of the report will contain the Assembly's observations and recommendations on the auditor's report, the Assembly's recommendations on the draft program budget for 2026, as well as the Assembly's observations and recommendations on matters with financial and budgetary implications. As for Part 3, I suggest that, as in previous instances, the Secretariat be invited to incorporate into the final report the resolutions adopted by the Assembly in its 24th session. The Auditor's report, the draft program budget for 2026, and the reports of the Committee on Budget and Finance will be included in Volume 2 of the official documents. The annexes to the report of the 24th session will include the report of the Credentials Committee, the report of the President on the activities of the Bureau, the report of the Working Group on the program budget, the statement of the Chair of the Committee on Budget and Finance, and a list of documents of the 24th session. I would like to ask delegations if they have any linguistic or editorial corrections to the text in any of the languages to send them directly to the Secretariat. The corrections will be incorporated later into the official documents. Madam President, I conclude my presentation on the draft report of the 24th session of the Assembly, recommending its adoption by the Assembly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the rapporteur for introducing the report of the 24th session of the Assembly. And we shall now begin the adoption of our report. I propose that we proceed section by section, and I request delegation visits to propose editorial or technical corrections to please contact the Secretariat directly. as was just also said by the rapporteur. Thus, if you have substantial proposals, amendments to the report, I would propose that you raise those only. Thus, we would start with Chapter A, Introduction. Does the Assembly agree to adopt paragraphs under the title Introduction? I do not see any comments from the floor, so I would take it that we have adopted Chapter 8, and it is so adopted. Then we will move to Chapter B, consideration of issues on the agenda of the Assembly at its 24th session. First, address Section 1, covering paragraphs 14 to 17. Does the Assembly agree to adopt those paragraphs? It is so decided. And then we would move on to Section 2, credentials of representatives of states parties at the 24th session. Does the Assembly agree to adopt that section? I don't see any opposition. It is so decided. And then we would move on to Section 3, general debate. Does the Assembly agree to adopt that? It is so decided. And then Section 4, report on the activities of the Bureau. Does the Assembly agree? It is so decided. Section 5, report on the activities of the Court. Does the Assembly agree? So decided. Section 6, report of the Board of Directors of the Trust Fund for Victims. Do we agree? So decided. Section 7, election of 6 members of the Committee on Budget and Finance. Do we agree? No, so decided. Section 8, consideration and adoption of the budget for the 24th financial year. Does the Assembly agree? It is so decided. Section 9, consideration of the audit reports. Do we agree? So decided. Section 10, amendments to the Rome Statute and the Rules of Procedure and Evidence. Does the Assembly agree? So decided. Section 11, cooperation. Does the Assembly agree? So decided. Section 12, non-cooperation. Does the Assembly agree? So decided. Section 13, decision concerning the date of the next session of the Assembly of States Parties. Do we agree? So decided. Section 14, decisions concerning the dates and venue of the next session of the Committee on Budget and Finance. Does the Assembly agree? So decided. And finally, Section 15, other matters. Does this Assembly agree to adopt? It is so decided. We have thus completed the adoption of our report. May I take it that it is the wish of the Assembly to adopt the report of the 24th session of the Assembly of State Parties as a whole? I see no objection. The report of the 24th session of the Assembly contained in document ICC-ASP24/L1 is adopted. The Secretariat will compile the report and the relevant annexes as soon as possible. The final version will be posted on the official website of the Court. May I take it that it is the wish of the Assembly to proceed on this basis? I see no objection. It is so decided. Distinguished delegates, we have thus concluded our consideration of the items on our agenda for the 24th session. Before closing, I wish to indicate that the Coalition of the International Criminal Court has requested the opportunity to make a brief statement. Thus, the Assembly agreed to invite the Coalition for the International Criminal Court to make such a statement. I see no objection. I give the floor to the Coalition for the International Criminal Court.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Madam President, members of the Assembly, dear colleagues, I have the honor of addressing you on behalf of the NGO Coalition for the International Criminal Court. This year, we witnessed an escalation of the most serious challenges international justice has ever faced, seeking to undermine the foundations of the institution we created together and interposing unprecedented obstacles to civil society doing our job. And yet, we were represented in person at this Assembly by more than 200 human rights defenders and NGO representatives from all around the world, attesting with their presence and their active participation their strong support for the Rome Statute system, despite growing threats against civil society. This week, you have heard the voices of survivors, community representatives, in this plenary hall, at side events in the corridors, calling on you all individually as state parties and collectively as an assembly to stand up for the ICC, the critical court of last resort for victims around the world seeking justice with no alternatives, and to shield the international justice system, including human rights defenders and civil society organizations, who often at great risk continue to support the court in the work on the ground to pursue justice on behalf of victims. Threats and attacks are nothing new for civil society and human rights defenders. Throughout this week, you have also heard from our Palestinian colleagues, Al-Haq, Palestinian Center for Human Rights, Al-Mezan, about the devastating impact of the sanctions imposed by them by US executive orders, exactly for carrying out their critical work on behalf of justice. Meanwhile, many other human rights defenders around the world continue undeterred in the pursuit of justice at great personal risk. Many of our American civil society colleagues are being silenced by their own governments in their engagement in this forum, and yet they persist. As we have said at NGO opening statements, giving way now to illegitimate interference in the judicial process just this once will not save the court. It will condemn it forever to being at the mercy of whomever is able and willing to exercise the hardest pressure. What is clear, Excellencies, is that these threats will not silence our voices. We'll stand together. We will not be divided. The promise of the Rome Statute, the legal obligations of the Rome Statute, live through you and through us, and together we have the responsibility to sustainable peace through justice. As new threats to the principles of justice and accountability loom on the horizon, we call on you once more to be strong and resolute in your defense of the international justice system, including those civil society organizations on the front line, whose work constitutes the foundation of the Rome Statute architecture. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the Coalition for these remarks. Distinguished representatives, distinguished President, Deputy Prosecutor, Registrar, and staff of the Court, dear colleagues, dear friends, we are now at the closing of this 24th session of the Assembly of States Parties. I would like to particularly acknowledge the work conducted during 2025 in the working groups in New York and in The Hague, and by the facilitators and the country focal points as they carried out the mandates of the Assembly under the leadership of their respective coordinators, Vice Presidents Michael Kanu of Sierra Leone and Margareta Kasangad of Poland. I would like to thank delegations for the commitment and flexibility demonstrated during the last few days. This constructive approach has allowed the Assembly to successfully resolve a range of issues. I trust that we will be able to carry forward the mandates contained in the resolutions which we have adopted today. I wish to sincerely thank all state parties, members of civil society, observer states, and of course the court for their support and cooperation, without which we would not have been able to successfully conclude our work. This constructive spirit has enabled the Assembly to resolve numerous issues. I'm confident that we will work efficiently through the mandates reflected in the resolutions adopted. I would like to warmly thank all states parties, as I've said, and naturally all the collaborators. The International Criminal Court is the first permanent international criminal court. Its greatest challenge lies in the achievement of universality. That goal is the responsibility of all of us. During the upcoming intersessional period in particular, I encourage all delegations to promote universal membership of the court. It is only through universality that the court can truly deliver on its promise of justice to all. I think we are all aware that we still face significant challenges ahead. But I'm also confident that by working together we will, as we have during this assembly and consistently in the past, navigate these difficulties and in a way that protects the independence of the court and the sanctity of the Rome Statute system. Collectively, our voices can be heard. Through open communication, we can reinforce our unity. In the coming intersessional session, I urge all states parties and other stakeholders to continue to engage constructively and transparently in forging the road ahead. Before I close this session, I would like to invite you to rise and observe 1 minute of silence dedicated to prayer and meditation, in particular for victims and survivors of atrocity crimes around the world. Thank you. I now declare the 24th session of the Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court closed. And I wish you all happy holiday season and safe travels to those returning to New York and to your capitals. See you next year.